کنفرانس بین المللی در بروکسل با حضور شخصیت‌های برجسته سیاسی و حقوقدانان. پاسخ اتحادیه اروپا و آمریکا به موج جدید تروریسم رژیم آخوندی. 12 مهر ماه 1397 4 اکتبر 2018. لزوم اخراج دیپلمات تروریست ها و مزدوران اطلاعات آخوندی، بستن سفارتخانه ها و لانه های جاسوسی رژیم در اروپا.
There is a saying in American politics that sometimes hope and reality collide. We have all hoped for a long time that the Iranian regime would reform and transform itself. Sometimes the evidence becomes too unmistakable. What happened on June the 30th was part of a pattern, not an isolated event. Weeks before, American and Albanian intelligence uncovered a plot to plant a bomb outside a dining hall in Tehran where Iranian refugees would have been gathering to eat. Weeks after the attack, the planned attack on June 30th, American law enforcement uncovered surveillance activities in the United States where Iranian intelligence was monitoring Iranian refugees and sites occupied and owned by Americans of the Jewish faith. There is an emerging pattern of Iranian activity in the Western world of terrorist plans and actions. It is not a coincidence. This is what happens when despotic regimes are under enormous political pressure at home and feel threatened by their own people. It is a pattern well recognized in history. For 9 months, hundreds and then thousands of people in small towns and cities across Iran have been demanding to reclaim their future, to end the despotic regime and restore democracy in Iran. The Iranian regime is acting in the only way that it knows how. It cannot blame itself for the poverty of the Iranian people. It will not prosecute its own leaders for the torture, the abuse, and the imprisonment. So it blames those who protest, arresting those who would speak freely on the streets of Iran and those in the expatriate community who still love their homeland, want it to be free and prosperous. These terrorist actions are a manifestation of that frustration. There have now been 3 uncovered terrorist actions in 3 months, all traceable to the Ministry of Intelligence, not by rogue officials, but by Iranian diplomats. This is not a case where we can give the benefit of the doubt, look the other way, or hope for the best. To not deal with reality is to invite further attacks and loss of life. There are several things that have happened and more that can occur. First, the commitment to justice by the German government in cooperating with Belgian officials has been an example of just what it is like for a firm democracy to be threatened. The professionalism of Belgian law enforcement and the first statements by the government of France, which of course would have been host to this terrorist act, and France being no stranger to terrorism. The question is, what happens now? First, my government is not without a potential role. Under the statutes of the United States, a terrorist action abroad, which involves casualties of American citizens, is prosecutable under American law of our terrorist statutes. On July 23rd, a letter was sent to Secretary Pompeo, Secretary of State of the United States, by a group of individuals who were present at the June 30 rally, reminding the Secretary of State that, and I quote, "As American citizens having potential victims of this state-generated terrorist attack, we call on the United States government to hold Iran accountable, apply punitive measures, identify the Ministry of Intelligence and Security as a terrorist organization. Second, and I quote, bearing in mind that many American dignitaries and tens of thousands of people from multiple nations were present at this venue, we urge the Department of Justice to consider opening an investigation on this matter under the criminal and terrorist statutes of the United States." End quote. This could, of course, include, after prosecution in France or Belgium, extraditing the defendants to the United States for prosecution again under our similar statutes. This letter was signed by the former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, former Mayor and presidential candidate Rudy Giuliani, former Ambassador to the United Nations Bill Richardson, former Attorney General of the United States Michael McCasey, former FBI Director Louis Freeh, Francis Townsend, former Homeland Security Advisor to President Bush, and a variety of other American officials who were present at the June 30th rally. I recognize that as a large nation with considerable resources, taking a firm position against the government of Iran has economic costs. I recognize that because of the nuclear accords, taking a strong position against the government of Iran has political costs. What are the costs of doing nothing? The government of Iran is watching. Silence invites more attacks. A policy of appeasement assures more terrorism. There may be financial contracts at issue, but do we really weigh them against the lives of European citizens or those who would speak freely? At this point in history, are the great democracies of Europe to be intimidated by a religious dictatorship in Tehran? Is this what 100 years of restoring universal European democracy has created? On our watch? Every dictator and despot in the world that would like to protect their power over their people is also watching. Iran is not just being tested here. So is the European Union and NATO and the United States. This is a defining moment. Our law enforcement agencies have acted bravely. So are the justice ministries. So yesterday did the government of France. Now we wait. Does everyone else follow or remain silent? The first action, of course, is that the evidence is overwhelming. Two things cannot be true. An Iranian diplomat cannot travel through Germany en route to a rally in Paris, transporting explosive devices to kill European and American citizens. That can't be true, as is now being alleged by Belgian officials, confirmed it appears by German and French officials, and the Ministry of Intelligence of Iran not be a foreign terrorist organization. If the Ministry of Intelligence is not a foreign terrorist organization, then Iranian diplomats who have been arrested and extradited should not be prosecuted. If they are to be prosecuted and extradited, the Ministry of Intelligence of Iran must be designated as a foreign terrorist organization. Both cannot contradict. That is a challenge to your governments and mine. We're waiting. I will respect your own government and your own sovereignty to reach your own judgment on the Iranian nuclear accords. But I would challenge you with this. Even if you disagree with my government and me on the Iranian nuclear accords, you can reach your own judgment on the issue of economic sanctions against the Iranian regime. We can still find common ground. There is the case of this pattern of the using of Iranian government resources for terrorist attacks. This is not our security alone. It is all of our security. It is not an offense against us or our principles. It is an offense against all of you and your principles. And the sanctions are working. The noose is tightening. Iranian people are on the streets of cities and towns across Iran risking their lives and giving their lives by the thousands to end this tyranny. What do we ask of us? No one asks you to fight. No one asks you to shed blood. They ask you to forego some contracts. Buy oil somewhere else. Spend your money in another country. You don't have to help. Just don't hurt. That's the challenge to us as citizens. The challenge to our governments are designate the Ministry of Intelligence as a foreign terrorist organization today. Today. Thank you all very much. Thank you.